Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Goodness Village podcast. You are listening to episode 1, and we thought it'd be great to kick this podcast idea off with a conversation with our executive director of Goodness Village, Kim Curtis. How are you doing today, Kim?
I'm doing good. I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, I'm really stoked to sit down and just talk all things Goodness Village. So, throughout this podcast, the vision is to just interview people that are involved in the community, neighbors, staff, volunteers, and really just show our greater Tri Valley community what the village is all about. So I thought it was appropriate to have you set the tone for the podcast and kind of share your experience with the village. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Kim, what is Goodness Village for folks who do not know?
Goodness Village is a tiny home community right alongside 580 in Livermore. We're on church property, or Crosswinds Church to be specific. You can't really see us because we're hidden by the children's ministry, but tucked behind the church is 28 tiny homes. We are very low barrier, high support for folks transitioning out of chronic homelessness that formerly lived on the street or in their cars in the Tri Valley area.
You've been here since day one, right?
Yeah, I started back in October 2020. The village itself took some time to build itself during COVID, so construction was delayed and things like that. But in the background, I was creating program and getting the website up and going with the help of you, trying to find funders and that supported this dream because we didn't have anything that was tangible to show. So we were pitching this dream of mine and trying to sell this idea of treating folks who were living outside or in their car with respect and providing dignified homes and removing a timeline for care so that they could get well on their own terms. And so it was just a really incredible time of creativity and imagination and praying that folks kind of bought into the ideas that we were selling.
Yeah, and I mean we've had Goodness Village established for 3 years, with the last two with neighbors living here in the tiny houses. Um, you mentioned this idea of working with the church and here on the property and trying to get this dream off the ground. And it's off the ground and it's flying, which is so cool to see. A big part of Goodness Village is the sense of community within the village, within the city of Livermore and the Tri Valley. What does community mean when you think about it for Goodness Village?
I always think now about how we all felt in COVID
Mm,
when we were told to shelter in place and to isolate ourselves and to not interact with your family that lived outside your home. Um, Talking to people over the phone, maybe, or those Zoom calls, things like that. But they lacked emotional connection. They were sterile. I think
right. Yeah.
that lack of physical touch that we all felt like we needed and in order to carry on. I mean, during COVID, the number of relapses that people who were in recovery, that number skyrocketed because of isolation and feeling just disconnected from your community of support. And that is, I think, the best way to describe what unsheltered folks feel like, right? They're so disconnected from their family, from the people that their loved ones, they have folks outside with them that they're connected because of being unsheltered. Would they have been friends maybe if their situations were different, if they weren't struggling and trying to survive where these friendships happen, which is amazing that they have and a reason that they've been able to survive out there. But there's still that disconnect that of knowing who that person was maybe just before they became unsheltered and who they could have been or how life may have changed for them. Like they're not sitting around maybe talking about their hopes and their dreams when they're trying to survive. So that's what we're trying to create here is a space of healing so people can first sleep, eat, get on a regular schedule, get out of fight or flight mode, get out of survival mode, begin to creatively think about their future and what does that look like and maybe reconnect with loved ones if we can find them or if they're willing to open that door back up to them.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. If I'm hearing you correctly, it's almost like, well, people are gonna find community wherever they are, for folks that, are homeless, they still find that, but they find it with people also in the same extreme circumstance. I feel like I can empathize with that a bit with COVID because, like you were saying, everyone was isolated, everyone had to have these new restrictions, and society was not the same. So, a lot of folks out there, we went through the COVID experience for a year, but for our unsheltered neighbors, like, that's just the status quo. They've been on that survival mentality for so long, and the fact that we were able to launch Goodness Village in the middle of COVID too. So there was that leaving of for our current Goodness Village neighbors, they left behind both the struggles of COVID, but also homelessness to move into the village and find all those things kind of not resolved immediately, but this is home for all of our neighbors, right? How have you seen neighbors turn this place into not just a house to live in, but into home?
It's my favorite thing to walk through the village and see how people have planted different flowers or added decor to their porch to create that home feeling for themselves. The little tangible things that we take for granted is a big deal for them to have. If they replace the welcome mat with one that they purchased from the store instead of the one that we gave them for free, that's a huge moment in agreeing to let the village and the staff be a part of their life and to begin to build trust with somebody. That's the very beginning of a recovery story or a healing story, is reattaching yourself to a community or to the greater society, right? As long as they were outcasted of society, there was a lack of self-worth, a lack of engagement, a lack of worthiness. And so just a simple doormat or a plant on their porch or, you know, a pink flamingo stuck in the dirt, like that says, I am somebody. I am worthy of having this home and I am worthy to re-engage into society and take steps forward in a way that many people didn't think was possible for them.
Yeah, people have a sense of our neighbors here have a sense of ownership and pride in their community, which, uh, you don't see when people are living in their cars or in tents by the creek, but here they're wonderful tiny homes, they're small, but they make the most out of them, both inside and out. So, like you mentioned, you walk through the community and you see people adding their own flavors of personality and really building a neighborhood, which is really cool and inspiring to see.
Right? I love the sense of pride that they have too, the ask to make sure they know that there's a tour coming so that they can create the space that they want society to see them living in. They know that there's so many not good thoughts about folks that are unsheltered, and they want to make sure that they represent a different person to the world, and they want to be seen as appreciative for the I hate the word opportunity, but the opportunity to live here, right? And they take care of the space that they're in, and they're up and they're volunteering within the program or they're doing the vocational program. They're asking for help, which is new for some of our folks. So it's just neat to see the pride and the engagement and the community feel.
Yeah, it's something special, that's for sure. Pivoting a little bit, do you mind kinda sharing we don't have to get super deep into the nitty-gritty, but what is the Goodness Village program in a sense of I hear constantly people asking me, "Well, the residents there, are they working? Are they paying rent? What are they doing there?" So, I mean, there's so much there, but do you mind sharing a little bit what the program is beyond just the houses?
Sure. Sure. So we have a relationship with Crosswinds Church that allows us to have the houses here. We are our own 501(c)(3), so there's no religious affiliation required by the folks that reside here. But we do have to pay for some of the land use, right? If the church gave away the farm, there would be no farm. So we, as a program, do have to pay a small fee, which is about 25% of what other folks pay for land within the Tri-Valley area. And then we also pay for the increase in utilities that we are using over at the village for 28
Right.
individuals, and a staff. So the folks here do pay a monthly program fee. It's about 30% of their monthly income, and it maxes out at about $800 to $900 based off of 100% veterans disability because those folks still need maybe the 24-hour support that we have, but they do have a significant income. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to support them, as they may not be able to live in an apartment complex and share that wall with somebody else while they're kind of working through their mental health stuff with us. With saying that, we do have 24-hour mental health on site, and they're all bachelor level mental health trained folks, which means that we don't have security guards on site, which a lot of folks in this field might wonder about that. But we felt that security guards kind of heightened folks when they're distressed, and we wanted to have mental health folks that worked on de-escalation and conflict resolution, mediation, those kind of things, 24 hours a day to help folks retain their housing. On top of that, we have a vocational program, which is three-tiered vocational, starting out very basic. After being unemployed for a certain amount of time, we kind of forget what that looks like, right? So we're just working on basics of showing up on time, communication with a supervisor, hygiene, those kind of things, and also helping people learn how do you call out when you're not feeling well? How do you do that in a way that preserves your employment? And so those are skills that maybe we haven't dealt with in 15, 16 years. And also, we wanted a reason for folks to come out of their 160 square foot home and
Right.
build relationship with others and that community space. And we're rebuilding social skills and things like trust and rapport building. So all of that is included in the vocational program. Okay, so 24-hour mental health, vocational program. We have volunteer nurses as well that help connect people back into care. They do wound checks, wellness checks. They'll contact specialists if needed by others, or they'll help kind of support people into re-engaging in medical treatment after, again, being outside for so long. Um, there is more.
There is that.
Pausing.
No, that is,
Right? We have so much that goes
yeah.
on here.
It's incredible. I mean, it's and that may sound like a lot. That's just scratching the surface, right?
Right.
There's so many options and things that are available for our neighbors. But at the end of the day, if neighbors are, we like to talk about this too. If neighbors are good neighbors and pay their quote unquote rent, their program fees, they can stay as long as they like. They're part of this community. And if and when they are ready to take the next steps, whatever that may be, uh, we have a team here 24/7 to help our neighbors figure out what those best next steps are for. It's not a funnel. We don't have everybody go through the same exact program because 28 houses, 28 neighbors, 28 stories, 28 different reasons of why people become unhoused, and 28 celebrations of why they're no longer unhoused and now just neighbors. They're just part of our community.
So well said. You get to do the speeches from
Oh
now
my
on.
goodness. No, no, no. I'll leave that to you. I'll be your behind the scenes IT guy. I'm happy with that.
Oh, man.
No, I'm looking forward to hearing more stories. I know have scheduled an interview with one of the pastors, actually two different pastors here at the church, to see at Crosswinds Church what their experiences with working with neighbors at the village. I have a couple neighbors that are really excited to record on the podcast too. So it'll be really cool to see when I'm able to record those and share them with everybody, kind of connecting the pieces of kind of the 30,000-foot view that we're talking about now to what it actually means to be in the vocational program at Crosswinds or at vocational program at Goodness Village.
I
So
think you said that because they do so much work at
they
Crosswinds.
do.
So it kind of feels like that piece too, but we have 35 acres here, and the village itself is only on a few of those acres. So our vocational program does spill out into those 35 acres, and some of our folks do work for Crosswinds.
Mhm.
The reason they have grapes on their vines when you pull into the driveway is due to the people that work on our vocational program. And so the landscaping and different things like that. So I can see why
Yeah.
you said
No,
it in that way.
I was at Crosswinds Church this past weekend, and then they have well, every church has coffee. The coffee here at the church is one of Goodness Village's vocational programs, and a shameless plug, that coffee is one of the best in the Tri Valley. So,
Right?
no, it's you gotta try it.
Can I share my favorite story?
Absolutely.
Oh, my favorite story about that coffee, which I'll preface with that we started it out as that espresso machine, remember?
Right.
And so we realized not quick enough, I think. I think it took some time for us to realize that we weren't trying to raise up baristas through our vocational program, but that the coffee cart was a way to encourage people, one, to come out of their home and out of their village, reconnect with the macro community that they haven't been connected in with a while, but also to just have social time with individuals. And so the espresso cart was kind of making that impossible because the machine's so large and loud, right? So they were standing behind it. So we quickly got rid of that so that our neighbors were communicating and sharing space and having a good time and answering questions and things like that. But before we flipped over, I was in the church one day and somebody came up to me and said, we were probably about 6 months old, and somebody came up to me and said, "When are you gonna move people into those tiny homes back there?" And I said, They've been here. They've been here for 6 months. They served you that cup of coffee that's in your hand right now." But they didn't realize it because they were looking for a homeless individual,
Mm.
and instead, they received coffee from a housed person who had taken care of their personal appearance that day and did not look in the way that our biasness expects a person to look or interact with. So it was such an incredible opportunity to teach about how the village is a space of wellness and recovery, but to also ask a person to check in with themselves about their own biasness and what they expect homelessness to look like.
Yeah, and we all have those biases, right? You do, I do. We all have what we assume what homelessness looks like. For myself, uh, I have no background in the world of social work in the sense of working with folks that are unhoused. So getting to be part of Goodness Village has been a really awesome learning curve for me. Where first I didn't know, how to talk to people and interact with folks, and now I'm just go into our community center, have a cup of coffee with folks, hang out, watch a movie. People are just people, right?
Right.
Regardless of their background, we all have our struggles, and we compensate and we address them. But at the end of the day, people just want community. People
Yes.
just want to be seen and respected, and it's cool to see those things come together in Goodness Village, and also see the support of our more macro community, Crosswinds Church, with the local cities here, really rally around not rally around Goodness Village, rally around our 28 neighbors here
Yes.
and really see the success and support that success that they're already claiming for themselves, which is that's what it's all about.
Yes.
Well, Kim, this has been a lot of fun. I'll let you go. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I thought it'd be cool with this podcast. We end with how, well, as you know, how we end all of our staff meetings.
Ooh.
So this is folks listening from home. This is a very silly thing, but by golly, it works. It's called the alligator clap. You stick your arms out straight out in front like a big old alligator mouth. I
And then
will.
you sing Baby Shark.
We do not sing Baby Shark.
Oh.
You cannot pay me enough to sing Baby Shark. No, I count 3, 2, 1, and we clap
Okay,
and we end this thing. You ready?
ready.
3, 2, 1. Thanks for listening to the Goodness Village podcast. Production and recording done by our operations team here at the Village. Music was created by Club 88 member AJ Parr. If you want to know more about Club 88, this podcast, or Goodness Village, visit our website at gvlivermore.org. Don't forget, new episodes drop on Fridays. Thanks again for listening to The Good Pod.